Welcome to the Triple Takeover Toycast. This is episode 55, if you're keeping count. And tonight we're talking about Robosen. More on that later, because you might want to know who we are. My name is Sixo. With me as ever, my two gorgeous co-hosts. Ooh. Who are you, lads?
Probably not me then, since how you just described.
I don't know, man. I have a webcam and I have eyes. That's all I'm saying.
And quilters.
Wow.
Yeah. Right, very true. Well, that's more you, as we've established. But
I'm M.A.S.K from TFsquareone. Welcome.
And I'm at Toybox Soapbox from at Toybox Soapbox, but as everybody calls me, Liam.
Does everyone call you Liam?
Yeah, your window cleaner call you that?
Yeah, they do now. I think they've got the message. Oh yeah, and a good what ho to everybody.
got to get that in.
Got to squeeze that in.
Catchphrase. Okay, well, tonight the topic is indeed about Robosen, and it's something that we're really looking forward to talking about, actually. I think we've had this one on the boil for a little while. Like, we've kind of tossed it around a bit, kind of come back to it, and I think there's a bit to say. It's probably not the normal kind of episode on this one, because I think there's been a lot that's been said about Robosen, the Optimus Prime self-transforming, all of that kind of stuff. We've got a bit of a different take on it tonight, so we'll kind of come to that in due course. Before we get there, though, it is worth mentioning that we do have a sponsor for the evening. That is tfsource.com, so do check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs, and we'll do a bit of a longer segment on them in the middle of the pod.
We also got a Patreon. That's patreon.com/triple takeover. Whole bunch of benefits there. Everything from getting episodes early. You might be listening to this a week early. Access to our Discord server. And we have people actually sign up to Patreon purely to be on our Discord server, because we're on there all the time. It's a lovely vibe. And there's the weekly exclusive material if you sign up at the highest tier, which is Goldbox Classics. That's fortnightly mini-series and everything from IDW, More Than Meets the Eye, with James Roberts actually coming on and being a guest, to mini-sodes, which are about Transformers the movie. We've had Chris McFeely, we've had Paul Hitchens come on and give exclusive material to us, or we just talk about something like Pink Hot Rod for half an hour. So these are everything from like 20 minutes to 1 hour and a half. The amount of content there rivals the amount of content we've done for the free episodes. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it was fantastic to have James on, wasn't it?
It was awesome, man. I was just... I had to pinch myself a few times, really, when he was on, that it was actually happening. And even afterwards, it was so weird just kind of going through the recording, and it's like, okay, this is James Roberts. Like, we're actually sitting down and chatting with him. It was incredible.
Total honor. And he was fantastic. And you can tell he's someone who's done podcasts. He's been a guest, because he just brought all the goods. And I still feel like no matter how much I've heard from him about this series, that there was still something to learn every time you talk to him about it. And I know when we finished, even though we kind of split it in half and we've got more of that to come
later,
I still felt like I could have gone for another hour. I still had a whole bunch of questions that I wanted to ask. So now I'm really keen to have him on again.
Well, he said, hasn't he, that he'll be back for more. I mean, we essentially did it as the kind of, to sort of cap the first year of stories, if you like, of IDW, of More Than Meets the Eye, I should say. And we've said that we'll get him back for a sort of a year 2 special, as it were, when we're up to kind of issue 24 or whatever it might be. We'll kind of figure it out at the time. But he's definitely coming back on. Definitely.
Stuff.
I definitely can't wait to have him back. But I mean, at the minute, he's probably thinking, it's that time of year, probably thinking about his holidays. And, if you're thinking about your holidays, you can head over to our Rebel store and get all sorts of like fancy, cool Triple Takeover t-shirts to wear. Take them abroad with you. Represent, as they say. You can find all of that sort of stuff at Triple Takeover /
He's got a new desk and he doesn't know how to post it now.
Where's your post-it note gone, Liam?
Oh, for God's sake, no, hasn't. Well, if I had a post-it note, let's just say somebody may have forgot to put it on this. Hang on, okay. I've got this, don't worry. There's no post-it note. That's a myth. It's rebel.com / triple takeover /
Isn't it / people / triple takeover?
Yeah. That's what I said, wasn't it? Okay, let's try this again. All right. Rebel.com / people / triple takeover / explore.
Actually, I should mention that one of our patrons, Collecticon, did actually suggest that we might want to have one of those shorter links that we give people instead of putting the whole thing on. That's a good shout out. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, we're always up for a bit of feedback.
Easy to memorize, I believe.
Yeah. I had a Mav one actually the other day. Because I've got some bits on Redbubble as well, like you do, Maz, and obviously we've got our 3T stuff on there. And someone bought one of my clocks the other day, and they posted a picture on Twitter, and it was just lovely to see. I was just like, oh my God. It's a really, really cool thing.
What's
So,
on there? What do you have at a 6:0 clock?
it was a picture of Unicron, believe it or not, the WFC Unicron. It looked really good.
I would also like to give a big shout out to Bjorn Rudolfsson, who is Wave on TFW, and I believe he may have actually just signed up as a GBC, which is amazing, because he sent me a free Energon 6-shot as well as a very heavily discounted Superlink laser wave to replace my broken one, and he logged on to our mini-series, our most recent Unicron Trilogy miniseries, which he really enjoyed. And I just want to say thank you so much, dude, for an amazing, amazing gift and a great deal. And I love those figures, and I'm most grateful. Thank you.
That's so nice, man. That's just lovely. So, and that was a really good mini series as well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That recording. It has enabled me on a 6-shot and a John 6-shot. I'm not going to lie.
It's a gorgeous figure.
Track one down. Weird color scheme, but
yeah, so good in hand though. The red absolutely makes it.
I
Absolutely
can't
makes
wait.
it.
It's the red one.
Yeah.
It was nice, man. They were both really nice looking toys.
Red and green, mustard.
Yeah, it's like this
yellow,
snotty green with purple camo like deco on it, and then it's just the rest is red chrome, which is mad. It's just lovely. Red chest, translucent plastic, translucent red plastic on the cannon. This isn't my mini-series, so never mind. But it's all out there.
I'm still reeling from snot green, and it's gorgeous. But I believe you, man. I'm enabled.
I'm still reeling from forgetting to put my post-it note back on.
He admits it. There you go. That's an admission. There it is.
Busted.
Vindication,
Busted.
indeed.
Another day, another adventure.
Well, tonight the topic is Robosen. And as I sort of alluded to earlier, I think there's been a lot of chatter about this. And to be honest, part of the reason that we kind of came around to doing this topic is that I think, how to put it, it's been surprising to me having actually two of these things in hand. So full disclosure, Robosen have sent me the big one, the flagship Optimus Prime, and the Elite, the smaller one, to review. So I've reviewed both of them, and I really like both of them, I've got to say, and we'll obviously talk a bit about that tonight. But the focus is more on where this stuff sits in the market, because one thing that has surprised me personally a little bit is some of the, well, let's call a spade, some of the kind of backlash against some of this these products as well.
There's been some really public backlash, like really prominent people have reviewed this and been very vocally anti this product.
Yeah, and I guess I'll be honest, I've been surprised about that, because to my eye, there's not really a lot to not like about it as such. Like I do sort of understand a lot of the points that have been made. So none of this is about like, oh, those people are wrong, because I think ultimately it's all different opinions. It's just more to kind of explore where this stuff sits and why people have some of those opinions and where it's kind of coming from, and actually some of what this stuff is trying to do as well. Do you think that's a fair summation, lads?
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I was very much of the same opinion as those guys. Like, I didn't see the point of the product. I thought the price was outrageous, and I just thought, why does this exist? It's not for me, but I'm not in a position where I don't want it to exist. Like, that's not my position. It never is with any product in this line. But then I watched your review of it, and how different your review was to every other review out there. You actually went through the entire list of features of that thing, and it was gripping. And I thought, wow, okay, I see the purpose of this thing now, and I see who it appeals to. And yeah, then it made me interested. Then you two went to TFN Minicon, and Liam saw it in person, and he was blown away by it too.
Yeah.
Oh man, your face.
So I know I'm actually genuinely interested. That's why this episode idea really appealed, and I think the way we're handling it is actually pretty cool as well. I'm really glad we decided to go the way we did. If you just want to introduce how we're doing it this time.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, I will. So yeah, basically we reached out to Robosen, and we basically asked them a couple of questions just to kind of get their understanding, kind of a bit more information about where they saw how this thing sat and where they're trying to market it and how they're pushing it forward. Because I think for me, certainly not to kind of, give the game away, but I think some of the dichotomy comes from seeing toy collectors, which we all are as well, and we are Transformers collectors, we are toy collectors, looking at this product as though it were a toy. So like you see people, for example, saying, oh, well, it auto transforms, but I just want to be able to transform it. And it's that kind of, not confusion, but that sort of oddity around, well, where does it sit? Who is it for? Who's buying this? Who's interested in it? And how is it being marketed? So as I say, we reached out to Robosen. We've got their take on a bit of that, and we just really kind of wanted to unpick it a little bit.
That's exactly right. I mean, it has generated such a weird discussion because, I mean, my take on it when I first saw it was, this looks amazing, it's cool, but it's so far at my price range. And then I just kind of moved on.
Mhm.
And this, I don't know what it is, but we've had this conversation between us quite a few times now, haven't we?
We have.
So it felt like a great idea to actually bring it onto the podcast so we can talk about it in person, but also, I don't know, just kind of address some of the things I think people have said about it and maybe see where we sit up now. Because, as Matt said, his opinions moved on it since he saw it.
Yeah.
Mine was always that it was cool. It's just always been at my price range.
Oh, it's definitely always been cool. I just couldn't understand how they thought Transformers fans were going to buy it because of the price tag. I just didn't understand where their business plan was. But I think I understand it more now that they've shown those new figures that don't transform. If anything, that's made it clearer to me what they're aiming for.
That's interesting.
Yeah, see, I never see it the way you say there. You say Transformers fans, but I look at it like anything. It's like I have a bike, but I don't begrudge the fact that Ferrari exists. You know, it's just something far more expensive. Or, you know, if I had like I don't know, Ford Fiesta, something, just a little car, I don't begrudge the fact that there's a far more expensive version that has all these bells and whistles. And that's how I look at this. It's not marketed at the exact same crowd. And it is at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but
You
I
know
look
what
at HasLab Unicron that way. You know, like I know it's for Transformers fans, but I look at the price tag and I know it's not for all Transformers fans. I know it's for a certain subset of Transformers fans. There was just something about this particular product that made me think it's not just for Transformers fans, obviously.
Yeah.
It's almost like not a Funko Pop thing, not quite like that, but it is something that's meant to appeal to a wider range of people. But then you look at the price tag and you think, that's actually asking quite a lot of people who aren't even actually Transformers fans compared to those that are fans who also can't afford it. It just questions needed answering, I guess. And Sixo did a good job of doing that, to be fair.
He did. Because we had this with do you remember when they did the chess set as well? There's another thing we're looking at.
Yeah.
And how that failed. And we're all looking at it going, I can't believe it for this or that reason. You're like, I wonder if there's an element of we're not used to other companies maybe tackling these kind of products. And that's where we're trying to find this. Like, we're so used to the toys being very directly addressed to us, and maybe this is something different, and maybe like a bit like the chess set, but not exactly the same. It's almost like, you know, what's this coming from? Who is this for?
So I think interestingly, I had the Optimus Prime King piece from that chess set, that Elon Musk chess set as well, because they sent me that to review.
Sorry, I thought you said Elon Musk chess set for some reason. That's what I heard. I was like, what?
No, not quite. I'm not even going to touch that with a barge pole.
No, he'd already fired the other side of the board, mate. There's no competition.
The pawns are all just blue ticks.
Oh, no. Oh, God, it's just too awful to even imagine.
Chess X.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I'm desperately trying to move us on. God, you're just elongating the conversation.
Oh,
ouch.
Yeah. But no, so I got sent that chess piece. Oh, dear. Oh, it's all gone to Pete Tong. I got sent that chess piece. And I think the thing with that for me is that I looked at it. That was one that I looked at and I thought, was it like $600 or something? It was like some ridiculous price, maybe even more. And it was obviously a Kickstarter. So, you know, Kickstarters by their very nature tend to be quite pricey, or can be. And I don't know. I thought, okay, it's cool. A chess set is cool. It looks cool, but man, the price is outrageous. You know, and I always thought that is really expensive. And yet, to me, the weird thing with that was that you were coming at it from like the niche of people who love Transformers, are massive chess nerds, and have $600 whatever that they want to put for this kind of Kickstarter. And the sort of Venn diagram there, that's not a big result that's kind of coming out of that.
Elon Musk.
Exactly. Maybe just Elon Musk himself. I don't know. But I don't know. It just struck me as like very niche. And then when I got the thing in hand, I got to tell you, I wasn't majorly blown away by it. Like, it looked all right. And it was, you know, it had paint, but it was a bit sloppy. And it was kind of, the quality didn't really feel kind of there. And, you know, I posted a review of this, and it's all people can read it. But it just never sat kind of there for me. And it was kind of like, whereas this thing, I would separate it and tell you honest opinion. Like, I wasn't sure what I was going to make of it when this thing arrived, but I got it in hand. And again, you can watch the video, you know, and see. Thank you, Maz, about your nice comments. But the price tag, I think I even said, I think in the video, the price tag makes sense to me. I actually think it's good value for money.
It makes sense to me now that we've had the questions answered. I think that I understand what they're going for now. So that was actually a really good idea to clarify with them what they think it is. And even if people don't agree, it's just a little bit more insight into their thought process in creating a product like this.
So I think there's two things I just quickly want to say before we kind of get into the meat of it. Number one is that no one is wrong on this thing. And I do want to reiterate that. I don't want this to come across like...
Elon Musk is wrong.
Well, Elon Musk, yes. But I don't want it to come across like some people didn't like this Robosen Optimus Prime and we're here to set the record straight. We're here to tell them why they were wrong to think that. Because I think it's perfectly valid, and I get that people have concerns about cost of living and stuff like that, and whatever it may be, that this is a very, very expensive product, and by no means would I say, oh, you should be buying this. Like, if you whatever your opinions on it are, you're perfectly fine in thinking that. That's good.
I can't have that opinion because I've never seen the thing in hand. I've never experienced it, so I couldn't possibly say that to anybody anyway.
You're in for a treat when you finally do see it.
Looking forward to it. I'm really kind of keen to see one.
Yeah. Liam's face, man, was just a delight when you came across it.
It was perfect. It's so much fun. Like, for me, the only thing downside to it is just a disappointment that it's something so far removed from what I would ever spend money on that it's not something I'll ever own. But the brief time I spent messing with it, it's brilliant. The stuff you can do with it, and it clicks in your head what it is and why it is that price, and you're like, I get it now. Like, to be fair, I got it from the off, but it's just seeing it in person, it was even more like, wow, I get what they've gone for. It's fantastic.
I almost kind of got the sense that you were teetering on the idea of getting one at one stage. Like, I could sort of see a little glint in your eye of like, could I though?
That little annoying voice inside my brain was starting to go, but what if?
Yeah.
And it was like, but how? But what if? But how? And it's like, that eternal battle.
Your shoulders were definitely being weighed upon by two different forces there. I got the sense.
When you like really, really want something, because you start messing like, this is amazing. I would love to have this, and I would love to be able to mess about with something like this a bit more. But then, like, the cost, like I was saying, like, for me, it was like, it's great, but I don't know how I would afford it. But then, would I get that much out of it after spending that much money?
Can we talk about the cost? We're talking about the flagship Optimus Prime, right? You guys are talking about the main first product they did, and that's just the Prime cab.
They had both.
They had both. So there is the trailer as well. They had both at TFN Minicon. So there's the flagship, which is the big one. There's the Elite, which is the smaller one, and then obviously the flagship has a trailer as well. I'm quite certain that they'll probably do a trailer for the Elite. Wouldn't be surprised, but let's see. But yeah, the price is a factor for sure.
What is the price? I think let's be upfront about that.
So the flagship, this is in Great British pounds, but the flagship is $999, so $1,000 basically, and the Elite is $699, so £700, which sort of makes sense actually comparatively to the two of them, because I thought the Elite was going to be considerably smaller than the other one, and if anything, it comes up to about the shoulder roughly of the bigger one.
In my memory, I'm looking at it again. I remember it being smaller, but I don't know. It wasn't a significant difference. Like, looking at them from a distance, I wouldn't have picked up that there was a bigger one. It was only when I got closer I realised they were actually different in size.
It is like Big Brother and Little Brother. They're not so stunningly different in size that you'd be like, oh, okay, this is a completely different product. It's quite strange to sort of see the two of them together. But yeah, so the price, absolutely a factor. And let's be fair, there are going to be tons of people, even people that like the look of this thing, that simply it's just going to be, too far beyond what they're capable of kind of dropping on a product of this kind, whether it's a toy or not.
Am I right in thinking the prices have changed as well? Because the small one is cheaper, but is the small one not closer to what the original price was? Because this was the thing I saw online, was one of the complaints was that people had with it.
That it's gone up in price?
Yeah, I assume, as all things are doing at the moment, that the economy... Because I'm sure one of the complaints when this was announced was that it's actually very similar to what the early bird price was on the original, or something like that.
Oh, okay. That I don't know, to be completely honest. Yeah, I don't know. I know that it has been sold at $1,000 as well in the US. So whereas obviously here it's £1,000. So there's that whole thing of.
I could be wrong on this. It's just something I remember seeing a lot of on Twitter when the smaller one was announced.
Right. Maybe so. I don't know. So, but yeah, the price is definitely a factor. As I say, for me, the question I can't quite tell you is, would I pay £1,000 for it? Do you know what I mean? Because that's just such a large amount of money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I understand the price of it. I can't honestly say that I would have paid 1,000 for it, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same as you, Liam. Of like, it's a really tough question. That I don't know, but having been sent one, I get why
Yeah.
it is the price that it is. That's what I can tell you.
That's why I think Maz's comparison earlier when he mentioned Unicron, that is the same sort of
Yeah,
the way I thought about it as well. Because when I saw Unicron at your house, it's like, wow, that's amazing. It's like I would like to own it, but £600 seems like so much money. Not for that on its own, just for what I would spend on a toy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I
it's
think
just
that there's a
yeah,
difference as well with the HasLab stuff because, especially now, in a way, kind of Unicorn was the proof of this. Especially now, is that you know that it's only going to go up in price.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's a window.
oh yeah,
to
I'd have
get
bought
that
5
stuff.
now if I could go back in time.
Right, exactly. You know, it's the same with Star Saber. I'm sure it'll be the same with Death Saurus. That, you know, there's a window to get that thing, and if you don't get it during that, you're going to pay an aftermarket premium. Whereas the Robosen stuff is kind of, it's not like that so much, or it doesn't seem to be so far.
No, I think there's a headspace, isn't there, where you're willing to what you're willing to spend ultimately, isn't it? You're like, you can sort of justify some stuff up to a point. Like, you go, that's expensive, but I really would like it. Then afterwards, you're like, this goes beyond why I'm in this sort of hobby.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of headspace, like the financial implications of that. It's like, even if I could afford it, it's a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
I think it does cross some people's Venn diagram,
Yeah.
though. Like for some people, they probably think the same as you about a lot of items, probably also Unicron. But
Oh, yeah.
there's something about this particular product that is more in line with their particular
Yeah.
other niche interests, and they will spend for this, I think.
I think that is very true. I think there will be people that would look at something like Unicron or any more traditional Transformers product and think, well, it's just a toy, whereas this is a robot. And that is ultimately the key difference between the two, these sort of items. And the Robosen thing does do a lot more. You know, it is more interactive. It is in different ways. So it just really kind of depends what you're looking for. And I guess that was the thing that I really took from some of the video reviews I saw, was people describing it as a novelty. And this was the other bit I kind of wanted to hit on and just kind of address, I suppose,
Seems
head
really
on.
unfair. That's a really unfair way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a few people call it that now. I mean, someone we know that has it as well and paid their own money for it said, nah, it's a bit of a novelty item. But I kind of do feel like, and this is some part of what I tried to address I think in my vid, was that I kind of feel like, yeah, it is a novelty probably if all you do with it is the typical kind of speech commands, like tell it to transform and tell it to, you know, talk to you or whatever, say happy birthday. That's kind of the novelty bit of it. But then there's all the kind of programming and the kind of block building and building your own kind of customized actions, all the music, all the kind of speech that's on there that you have to kind of get through the app. There's a lot there. And
see, that's what makes me think a lot of the video reviews I watched, well, I didn't watch that many to be fair, but the ones that I did watch, I didn't expect the other reviewers other than you to go through that stuff, because I don't think that's typically how their channels work. So they would have treated it like a toy and a novelty and judged it like that, whereas your review actually showed the app. You actually showed the app. You showed physically manipulating elements
I didn't
in
know
the
that
app to
existed
create a
until we
sequence.
were at TFN. That it was that I was really caught
you
unaware.
didn't watch
That's
my
right.
review then, Liam, did
Oh
you?
yeah, of course I did. It was great, fantastic.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, maybe they needed to think more carefully about the reviewers that they sent this product out to get a better idea of what kind of reception they were going to get from the kind of channels that they were asking to review this product.
To be fair, they actually, I mean, one thing, when they sent it to me, it was quite late in the day. I mean, this thing had already been doing the rounds. And they specifically said to me, would you be okay to kind of showcase some of the app functionality? And I'll be honest, had they not said that to me, I might have glossed over it a bit, because it was the hardest stuff to film, frankly. Do you know what I mean? Because it's quite in depth, you know, and you're there on camera trying to build, like, essentially it's coding, you know, you're trying to do like block based coding and things like this on a little iPad screen, and then show what the physical product is doing at the same time. So it's quite challenging to film that in a particularly in an engaging way. I mean, it took me ages to kind of compile all the footage and edit it down to something that I felt communicated what I was trying to say as well. It was quite a challenge. Probably the most in-depth video I've done of that kind of nature.
But it's that kind of subject matter, though, isn't it? It really puts that, because, like, now I think about it, I remember seeing the app mentioned, you know, sort of in the thing, but I just didn't realize it was that in depth. And so,
I wouldn't have
I
thought it
suppose for
was.
you reviewing it, I suppose you have to go into such. I mean, obviously I watched it, so I remember you going into such depth and detail.
Absolutely,
But but just seeing it up close, like what you could do with it, and I was blown away with how, because I know about coding, and so, but I was amazed by how it was laid out. You know,
Yeah, 100%.
the functionality was really well thought out.
Super
like,
accessible by the looks of it.
Yeah,
That's
And
the
I
word,
could
accessible.
totally understand why
Yeah.
you were saying that this is something that you could do with your kids, and you could use this to help them get
100%.
into coding. That's what appealed to me. Like, I thought, yeah, that's actually something I'd love to do with my girl. You know,
Yeah.
I'd love to have this figure in the home, and it to be a regular thing to create this coding sequence where it does all these things. Because I know she'd like come up with stories for it as well, and it would just be like a centerpiece in her play or something like it could be, at least, if she was that way inclined.
That's the thing. My boy's a little bit too young for it at this point. He loves it, and he's well into like shouting commands at it. It's often a lot of like he gets so far down the kind of pre-prescribed commands that are in the little manual, and then he starts shouting things like "Hey Optimus Prime, dance" and stuff like that. And I'm like, it doesn't actually do that, mate. You know what I mean? Like, but the thing is, you could make it dance.
Dance for me, Optimus. Dance for me.
Dance,
Like that.
motherfucker! But you would have to make it dance. You would have to kind of find a way to program it. It's possible to do it, or I'm sure there may be a pre-done sequence that you can download to make it dance. I think there probably is actually.
Well, we saw them at TFN, didn't he? He had the three of them set up to dancing to the touch.
Yeah. I think that is actually one of the ones you can download because that's the thing. There's a lot. So it's kind of in levels because you get the manual, and the manual says, okay, here are your pre-programmed speech things. So you can say to it, things like hero, and then it's got a pre-programmed Peter Cullen quote, and it says something about being a hero and does some arm actions and waves its arms around with some nice music. Or there'll be like Megatron is one of the commands, and then it goes, Megatron must be stopped. All of that. It's my best Peter Cullen voice. And
it's good. I thought it was right here.
I invited him on, but that was him. He just walked out. Actually,
just nipped in.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible, and he's a bit busy, I think. But
he's getting some milk out of the fridge.
Maybe, sure. But it was funny because you got all those pre-programmed commands, including transform and things like that. And then you've got the ones that you can download beyond that. And the downloadable ones are more in depth. So you've got like it doing push-ups, you've got it doing drumming, you've got it doing kung fu. Like Maz, if you saw the kung fu sequence that it can do and that I had in my vid,
I did see that, yeah.
Incredible. I was like blown away watching it do this, like balancing on one leg and like doing high kicks and all kinds. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it nearly fell off the table at one point, but it was still really
it's going
stunning.
to, isn't it? It's like it's going to do something like that, especially as it idles by itself anyway. So you've got to be really careful where you put it. And that's not something you want to take a dive off a table. It's not Ditka. It's a grand,
Yeah.
We kept seeing that at TFM, wasn't it? We kept seeing Rocky, the Robosen guy, was constantly having to grab it off the table because people were making it transform or do stuff. And it was going toward the edge quite a few times.
It is nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie.
I can imagine.
Mine is nearly like I've caught it. Don't get me wrong. It's gone off the desk, and I've been like, "Whoa!" Like taking a dive.
He's a floor-based robot.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Very much so. And you need a lot of space for it as well. So there is also an element of like, it's not in a funny way. It's not just the price of the entry to get it. It's having the space in your home as well. So if you live in a tiny little place because you exorbitant rent or mortgage costs or whatever, it's going to be difficult to make the most of this thing.
I think that's really important though, because that's what this is. It is a toy, but it's not the kind of toy we associate with Transformers and stuff, is it? Like you're saying there, you've got to think of it as something. It spends more time on the floor because that's why you need to use it. You have to think about
perfect for your collection then.
Yeah, exactly.
All your
now you see why.
Already. Yeah.
Exactly.
It'd be like Transformers the movie, just be ploughing through all these Decepticons in truck mode, honestly.
Bloody the Ghostbusters firehouse, some Centurions down there. But I mean, like for most of us, we buy these toys, we look at them, we put them on desks, we take photos. Yes, we put them on shelves. You know what I mean, in cabinets and stuff. And this isn't that. This is this is like you're buying like it's almost like an entertainment device. I think is probably more of what it is 100%. Than a toy. It's not there just for you to manipulate a little bit and transform back and forth like a stress ball.
I totally agree with that, and I think
that's you can't even pose it, can you? I think that's the thing. It's not something you can pose and leave.
It can't be displayed.
It can't be
you-
displayed, not in robot mode.
No.
Yeah, you can't. That was a weird one for me. That took a minute to get over. By the way, I do just quickly want to acknowledge something because I had this in mind to mention before we move on. In terms of video reviews that talked about the coding and stuff, there were some others. I mean, I actually watched people like Jobby the Hong. I watched his video, and I only saw it actually after I did mine, bizarrely, and he talks quite extensively about it. So it was done.
Did you talk about the back?
Possibly, yes, but it was done by some video reviewers, just not all. I think is the point. I think Thew mentioned the coding a little bit in his video. I think so it was there. But yeah, coming back to the thing about it standing, that was definitely something for me because I remember realizing, when you power it down, it squats. It sits in this really awkward kind of like essentially doing a poo on the ground. It's that kind of it's that kind of squat, and you did that.
It's a very specific squat. It's very, very specific.
It's very specific indeed, and that, I have seen a couple of people talking about like customizing or 3D printing a stand, to kind of
or a loo,
or a loo, maybe. I mean, why not? But it's like a stand it's like a little peg that goes up its bum, basically. But it would mean that it would rest on the stand. As such,
the places this chat is going.
Well, don't they always?
In a way, I think this sums up what it is because it's like I'm saying, it's challenging what you expect from a transformer.
Right.
What we all, assume it should be. It's not there to be posing. It's not that it's good that it does that. I just I like the way that it takes you out of the headspace, even there, of what this toy is. It's not there.
It's a reminder.
Yeah, it is like a PlayStation or something. It's a device to be messed with and enjoyed in other ways. And I think that's that's a lot what the discourse comes from. There's this kind of this confusion and this disappointment almost that it's not something else that it was never intended to be. I think that's more than anything.
I completely agree with that. I think I'll be honest. Yes, first got it, realized it couldn't be posed or in robot mode, and I did have a moment of like, I was probably going to whack that on a shelf. Do you know what I mean? And now I can't. And in a funny way, that's almost been better because it's existed outside of everything else that I have whacked on a shelf, and a lot of stuff that I then kind of can't interact with as much, or I don't interact with as much. Whereas this has actually had to exist outside of the display, and consequently it gets turned on and interacted with a lot more, bizarrely. So it sort of forces you to want to have a go with it,
Well, that's it, because it's always omnipresent, isn't it? It's not in a display case there. It's not out of reach. It's not something you've put up deliberately out the way. It's always there. So you, like you say, you go past it and you're like, oh, I'll just pick it up or say something to it or mess with it. It encourages you to play with it, which is, it sounds such a funny thing to say about toys, doesn't it? But I feel like this does more to encourage you to actually play with it whilst not being what we would traditionally think of as a toy, Transformers. But it is just as much a toy as they are. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, I think maybe it's a good time to kind of get into the meat of this email, isn't it, really? And kind of delve into what Robosen have said. Because, as I say, we did drop them a note and just asked them a couple of questions, really, about what their take was. And some of the... I suppose, Maz, you had certainly a couple of questions, didn't you? Sort of that informed some of this, I think. We sort of took some of what you were wondering about and kind of drafted this, and then they responded to us. You think that's fair to say?
Did I not write all the questions myself?
I think, I was trying to be, trying to be generous about it.
It sounds like you had a tiny bit of input there, Maz.
Yeah.
I'm glad they answered them, and I'm glad they were honest about their answers. But yeah, let's read out our questions, and we'll go through what they said, and then we'll do our take on it, right?
All right. Do I read these out in my Maz voice?
You can try, but
the year 2000.
exactly.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Do it in that voice.
Oh, no. Do it in the shout-outs voice, where it's just like, hello, yes, Robosen was a really good toy. It transforms 975 points of articulation.
What, Maz's blur voice? I'm definitely not doing that. I can't do that. Right, here we go. So number one was, who does Robosen believe their Transformers products specifically appeal to, i.e., who is the target market? And they came back with, our main target market or target audience at the moment are kidult. So essentially, adults that have, I think, I'm paraphrasing here because I think this is what they mean, but like adults that are kids at heart, essentially. Tech lovers, collectible diehard fans, people who like pop culture. And he says that, however, we do plan to market the product to all family members in the future. And I think that's already quite interesting because, I don't know, to me, this is actually quite a family product. I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, that's what we're just saying there about it being like an entertainment device more than anything. It feels like something like like a family would gather around in the evening, maybe a father and a daughter or son or something like that. Maybe spend a few hours messing about with.
I don't think I would have come to that conclusion were it not for them saying that in one of their other answers, though. I think I think that way now,
yeah,
and I see it differently, but I never saw it as something like that. So I'm actually quite surprised by the answer because in a way it confirms what we've been saying. Like, they are aiming at people who aren't specifically Transformers fans, but
Yes.
are into pop culture. They're not, and at the same time, they're talking about diehard collectible fans. So they're also aiming at the high-end Transformers market who spend a lot of money on product that they really like.
Yeah, it's just a lot to unpick here. I think the family thing I wouldn't have appreciated until it was in my house.
Right.
I never thought that it would be that. I just thought, okay, this is going to be like a gimmicky, gadgety thing for me to kind of mess about with and do a review on, you know? And I was surprised actually by how much. I mean, like my stepdad got well into it, and as you know, whenever he comes over, he's like, "Oh, let's check it out." Do you know what I mean? And he's well into the two that we've had. And you know, if my wife has been really into it, even my wife, you know, I say that she's not interested in every robot that comes into this house. It's fair to say, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but this has created some interest, and there's been a lot of time that, I mean, obviously my son as well, that goes without saying, and it's been the Transformers product that I would say has drawn the most family interest out of everything that I own, and I've been really surprised by that.
It's unique though, isn't it? It's interesting. It's a bit like do you remember when the Wii came out, M.A.S.? And it was
Like a computer
almost
game.
Yes, it was a computer game, but that was one of those a console that attracted all kinds of interest, wasn't it? That was like the whole marketing thing at one point, wasn't it? Like, even your granny is interested because the motion controls was new and exciting and interesting.
Whole family standing together, engaging in a game. Whereas you go back one generation of console before that, and I certainly don't think that was the perception of particular consoles. Like, I would never have pictured the PlayStation 1, 2, or 3 that way.
No, even the Nintendos, even now, it's literally that one console, wasn't it? That exemplifies that more than anything else. But it's a very different device, and that's what Nintendo were going for.
Yeah, I do think this has a bit of that. It's just not been evident in the marketing so far, maybe. And I think they could almost stand to push that a little bit more because, honestly, there is that element to it. And it partly is...
They're crying out for tomorrow's world. That's what they're missing.
Right.
It's to be on tomorrow's world.
Potentially so. But, you know, it partly is all the coding and everything that, as you were saying, Maz, you know, that you and like your daughter could sit down and do together, for example. And certainly I could see, you know, if my boy was a bit older, there would be that element to it. But it is the kind of fun and interactivity of the thing as well.
Another thing I was just thinking, because of what you were saying, is, and what you just said about the comparison between Nintendo is, you know, a globally recognized brand. And I think a lot of people in the fandom had never heard of Robosen before this product. And that's the thing. This isn't their first product. This is not their debut welcome to Robosen product. They have a product line prior to this, correct?
They do, yes. I mean, that's probably an interesting point altogether, because what they do is they don't make Transformers, certainly.
No.
They make robots. And I don't just mean robots in the sense of, oh, we own a lot of robots. They're actual robots, you know, they're interactive robots. And
like Elon Musk.
Right.
It's Sixo, you know, he's lucky he never got that blue tick in the end, because, you know, would have taken it away from him now.
I would not be. I've never been fussed about a blue tick. I can honestly say that. But they
should get him one for his birthday.
How good would that be? Please do not. Honestly. But their classic product. I'm moving on. Their classic product is called K1, and I think there's a pro version as well of this. And if you've not seen it, it's like it's a humanoid robot. It's essentially, if you imagine if you imagine Optimus Prime, they're Optimus Prime without it looking like Optimus Prime. It's grey. It's a sort of fairly not nondescript, but sort of generic looking robot, and it's cool. I've seen it in person at Comic-Con, and it does a lot of the same features and things like this. It does little dances, it does motions. You can tell it to do things, all of that, and it's a very, very cool thing. But it's almost like they took that and put an Optimus Prime skin, and then that is the bit that is kind of then to help market what they do, if you like, to, well, as I said, pop culture people, Transformers, nerds, whatever it might be.
Robosen fans who now, to them, maybe the Transformers element is the novelty, not the robotic element.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an element of that. And I think seeing that K1 figure and what it could do, it almost makes a bit more sense, because I also happen to know that, like, with K1, that was marketed a bit more as kind of almost an educational tool. And we've got a mate who is does robotics and things with schools and things like that, and he's been super interested in it, and has backed some of their first Kickstarter product that they did, where they came from and things like that. So I think it's weird now learning about Robosen almost through this Optimus Prime product, because it's not their evolution, if that makes sense. That's not where they've come from, as you said, Maz.
Did that K1 thing, did that transform then?
No, it doesn't transform. I'm generalizing when I say it's literally like Optimus without the skin, but it does. It's at the core of it. It's an interactive robot. That's what it is.
It kind of feels like a shame they didn't come at it from more of that educational angle when they announced the Optimus Prime, like when they were saying there about it being pop culture and stuff like that. To me, it feels far more suited to being pitched as an entertainment product. I know the price puts it out of there, but maybe it feels like if it was a little bit smaller and more affordable, it would hit perfectly that same sort of tone. So maybe it's a way to attract people into getting more into robotics and coding as that kind of a tool.
I totally think it's got that potential.
With the skin of Optimus Prime, it's likely to pull more people toward it that would have never really thought about it before.
Well, I think it's amazing that they've done the trailer. I can't wait to see the trailer dance and talk.
I tell you what, man, I saw the trailer.
Walks like an Egyptian.
What a tomb. A sarcophagus.
Oh, God.
Did you see the trailer at TFN, Liam? Did they have it there? They didn't, did they?
That. They had the ginormous stand, which looks incredible.
Right. So I saw the trailer at Comic-Con, and I was blown away. So firstly, the trailer, when it transforms into the kind of battle station mode, I mean, it flips open, obviously, but then, it like the repair bay, so it stands up on its end, and it actually does it in this weird way where the bottom half of it stands up first, and then the top half flips up. And it's actually quite breathtaking to watch, and a little bit frightening, because you think it's going to kind of catapult off the table, but it's pretty solid. But it's immense as well, just so big. There's a little roller with a little spike in it that can drive around.
Me and trailers, man.
On remote control.
Appeals.
It's a very cool thing. It's a very cool thing. But I think you're right, Liam, that there is that kind of educational aspect to it as well. Not to sound too kind of wanky about it. I think that's actually true. I think it does have that. And I think stuff like their K1 product has been looked at in that way, probably because it doesn't have the kind of pop culture nerd thing about it of being Optimus Prime. So it's almost like you can take it a bit more seriously, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. It feels like that's what it's being pitched as, though. Like that, the other one, it feels... Or maybe it was because it was given to Nick, wasn't it? He was saying about taking it to school and stuff like that. So maybe that's where I thought of it. But it just feels like a perfect way to get kids into coding and messing about with robotics.
Did any of you at school have one of those BBC computers that was hooked up to something called a turtle, and it was just like this half dome with a pen attached to it that you could code it to sort of go around this piece of paper and draw a square if you knew what you were doing?
Yeah. Had that.
Yeah.
Look where we are now.
Had an Etch-a-Sketch.
Right.
It's basically what it was an automated Etch-a-Sketch.
It's basically the same thing, for sure. But no, you're right. I mean, in principle, that's what this is. You could absolutely have something like this in a school, and it would be a great way to teach kids, about the basics of coding anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the season 3 soundtrack being superior.
Yes, absolutely. It does have a lot of... Man, the music on this thing.
Yeah, that was where really... I was like, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
This is where you get your S3 soundtrack from.
Oh,
that was amazing when you went through the library of it.
I had to cut some of it for time as well. I recorded more, but there's so much of it. I was like, just going through the music, even that, I was just blown away. And there's so much Peter Cullen on this thing that just, again, if you don't delve into the app, it's... I don't know. It's just sat there. It's like a time capsule almost of all this good stuff. It's incredible.
Does it have that line he gives Ironhide in the pilot about there's a thin line between being a hero and a memory?
I don't think so. I think it's
such a good line.
I don't think so. I mean, I think obviously Peter Cullen has re-recorded all of these lines fresh. You can sort of tell it's older Peter's voice, if you like, than the kind of somewhat younger Peter Cullen that you get in season 1 of the cartoon. But it sounds great. I mean, if ever anybody doubted how great Peter Cullen's vocals are, listening to this thing up close with it, no music or anything over it, it's a great voice track.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Right, well, it's that time for the bit of the pod where we talk about our sponsor.
It's that time for the bit of the pod. Every time you say that, like when I'm editing an episode, it's amazing how fast you say that. It's time for the part in the pod. It's amazing how quickly you say
I'm
it.
putting on my podcast voice when I do that bit. That's what it is. And so it's just my regular patter. What can I tell you? But we are going to talk about our sponsor, and that is TFSauce. Shall I do it even quicker? It's that time for the bit of the pod where we talk about our sponsor, and it is tfsauce.com.
Do you come from a land down under?
Exactly.
Vegemite Mike just stood up and paid attention.
Yes.
He's just eating a Vegemite sandwich. That's what Mike was doing.
Welcome to the joke. Yes.
Oh, God. Yeah, we are going to talk about TFSauce. And check them out for your Transformers and third-party needs. And tonight, Matthew, we're gonna take a look and see what they've got in stock and up for pre-order right now. And I think we've all kind of conclusively said that we want to focus on Commander Armada Universe Optimus Prime from Transformers Legacy.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. They've absolutely nailed it. I think it just looks wonderful. I know you guys are big fans of the Fans Hobby version, and
Naval Commander, yeah.
Yeah, and that looks fantastic.
And indeed, the original toy, can I say? I'm a
yeah,
big fan of too.
Yeah, but I think this just looks great as well. This just looks like a fantastic compliment to that.
One question I have about it. Why is there a big Lego piece behind his head?
So,
yeah, that is true, actually. Yeah. Well, that is kind of...
Is it missile pods?
From memory, that is kind of... There is a thing like that on the original toy. It's... Oh man, it's over on the other side of the room now. I can't get to it whilst we're recording, but I'm pretty sure there is a sort of equivalent piece on the original toy, a bit like that.
There is just behind his neck. There's a big chunk.
Yeah, it does look a bit like a Lego piece in that picture, I will say.
Yeah, it is. It does look like some sort of missile pod, I think, on the original toy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a little bit more subtle, perhaps. But yeah, I agree with you, Liam. I think it does look really good. I'm kind of into this. I think it's great that they're doing Armada. I think it's perfect timing. I think the appetite has been there for this for some time, and this is just proof of the pudding. Like how much excitement there is for this thing online.
It was so nice to see the reaction of people to this as well. It was none of that. Oh, it's not G1 or anything. There was just a lot of love for it and excitement. It's so nice to see something different, but something this striking as well. Because a lot of we've been conditioned sometimes. You get a bit disappointed, don't you, when something like this comes up because it's maybe a hodgepodge of different designs, but this just looks so spot on.
Yeah, they've really kind of swung into the original look, I think, of the thing. The only thing I'm not so sure about with it is the hip flaps, to be honest, in the kind of super mode. I think the
super diaper.
Yeah, there's a bit of diaper action going on there, definitely. But that aside, I get why that is how it is, even if it's not my favorite kind of solution. But yeah, overall, I think it looks pretty stellar. The smaller robot, though, looks ace as well.
Yeah, he looks great. Where's the Minicon, though?
That's the thing. It had a hell of a Minicon, too. It was a wicked mould, the old spark plug.
Yeah, that is a shame. They've done it with Megatron as well, haven't they? Armada Megatron, no Minicon, no Leader 1. But maybe they'll do a little pack or something. I don't know.
I think something like that would bring a lot more people in. I'd certainly look at it more closely under those circumstances, I think.
And they've got the Micromasters that they did, that sort of style. So they're quite used to doing those kind of scale robots.
Yeah, but we all know that they're dead.
They're dead.
They're only dead because they're going to be called Minicons from now on.
Right.
Okay. I reckon if they did them Minicons, they'd be called Micromasters, wouldn't they? Because Micromasters now just seems to be like any small Transformer.
It's true. That's what the catch-all term for it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it probably would be. I actually don't see it happening, though, to be honest. I think they've just kind of seemed to have moved on. And from what I can tell, there's no interactivity with the Minicons on these toys anyway. Like all the kind of that gimmickry is lost. So
I have the Armada Starscream they've done, and he's still got pegs for him to go on, I think.
Okay. Maybe they will. I don't know. It'd be fun
That's a
to
great
see.
toy, by the way, that Starscream.
Yeah,
it's
really nice.
Super
lovely.
slick.
Absolutely.
Feels
lovely.
really good too. It's
Yeah.
definitely not a hollow form or anything like that. That's a nice toy.
Yeah, I think it's great that they're doing this, man. I hope they do more. I'd love to see them do some Energon stuff and that as well. So
Ooh,
I'm
yeah.
totally down for that. I'm sure you are, Maz.
Ooh, now let's have
Yeah.
another landmine. Come on.
Yeah, that'd be fun to see. Totally fun to see. So what else has caught your eye on TF Source?
For me, it's the more Diaclone stuff. It's that Orbithopter Vasalta in
Ooh,
black.
yeah, that
Definitely
looks good.
eyes focused on that.
Yeah, that looks pretty swish. Like red and black, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I'm getting the white one 100%. It's got a strong Starcom vibe.
Yeah.
But the black one also looks superb.
For me, definitely what's caught my eye is if you look there, it's got DNA design upgrade kits, and you'll see that in the little image is actually the Nemesis Prime movie masterpiece one. So this is how you remove the cat ears from your
de-ear the cat.
Yeah, you de-cat ear your
Goodbye, kitty.
Exactly.
That's what they should have called the kit. Goodbye, kitty.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Goodbye, kitty. Piss off, kitty. And yeah, so this is how you de-cat ear your Nemesis Prime. So yeah, I'm kind of into that. We'll see.
Oh, I've seen something on the. It's got a name that I can barely pronounce, or maybe not pronounce at all, and it was IFEX57 Seki Jujian Iron Factory Iron Samurai, and it's some sort of ratchet with all kind of crazy samurai gear on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. I see that.
What is this? I've
what
never
is
heard of
it?
this. I don't know, but it looks like something that could have been in more than meets the eye.
It's mad. It's Samurai Ratchet. Yeah.
They should have called him Jack.
Or Pizza Cat.
Nice.
Oh, Pizza Cat. Speedy Ceviche.
Yeah, indeed. I thought for a minute you were talking about something you'd seen. Maz, you'd seen. And there's a thing there. If you look, because you were talking about the little power glide, the little blue power glide. But to the right of that, have you seen there's a thing called Mazinkaiser?
Yes. But just going back, this ratchet comes with a drum kit, or it's a stove and he's cooking over it. I don't know which it is. Have a look at one of the product photos of this Seki
promo
Jujian.
pics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not those.
He's
Maybe the
barbecuing.
promo pics.
The
Maybe
promo
the promo
pics.
pictures.
The promo pics.
He's the barbecue guy
He's-
on the last ride.
Yeah, it's a barbecue. That's exactly what it is.
Oh god, he is, isn't he?
That or a drum kit, like an 80s drum pad.
What is this toy, man? It's just mad.
He's just thinking, tailgate your turkey twizzlers are ready.
2 minutes, tailgate. 2 minutes.
Wow. Kind of want this thing now.
It just looks cool. It just looks so random and strange. I mean, it's just nice to see a bit of,
Yeah, it's fun.
creativity.
Definitely
in it.
fun.
It'd be tiny as well, wouldn't it? Because I presume it's Iron Factory would be kind of Legends class.
Yeah. It's got the
Yeah,
red helmet as well,
Yeah, Marvel Comics, baby.
in
Great.
his classic Marvel samurai appearance.
Samurai barbecue master, yeah.
And so, Maz, you got no love for Mazin Kaiser then?
No, it's like Mazinga Z, just because it's got the right 3 letters at the start. Nah,
Nah, that doesn't float your boat.
not yet.
So we're not going to get Mad Maz.
That's every episode, isn't it?
I was going to say, when do we get rid of Mad Maz? Anyway, that's about going to do it for us.
When he hits the Fury Road.
It's, I think we're already there, honestly. It's him driving to work.
Yeah.
We don't need another hero.
Watch out. Stationary vehicles.
God, I've had enough of his Thunderdome, honestly. Anyway, that'll about do it for our sponsor segment for the evening. Do check them out, tfsource.com, for all your Transformers and third-party needs.
We now return to the Transformers.
So, getting back to the topic at hand, which is Robosen. So, we kind of talked just before the sponsor break there a little bit about where they're kind of targeting this product. Another question that we, Stroke Maz, had for them was what plans does Robosen have to evolve the product to further appeal to a toy collecting crowd? Which I think is really interesting because has it been marketed to toy collectors? Because certainly, as you said earlier, I think, Maz, the video reviewers that they chose, it sort of implies that that's the target market.
Well,
It
it was a quite obvious path to go. I mean, if you want the franchise that you're targeting to be aware of your product, you'd go to trusted video reviewers. You'd get their take on it, and that you get people's attention in the fandom that way.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, their answer to this was, we're always saying that we're making robots, something more than toys. And with the robotics and AI technology evolving, our product will become more home entertainment.
There it is.
There you go. And that it can provide a kind of emotional and functional benefit for our consumers. And so just like, families have PlayStations or 4K TVs or Nintendos, and in the future, Robosen can become kind of one of those sorts of options as like a home entertainment product.
See, that's what kind of made me understand where they're going a little bit more, is this central nexus AI home aid actual robot that you read about in sci-fi.
It is a little bit of that. I mean, you can sort of see that it's on the way towards that already. I mean, it's not AI yet because it's not, it's not an intelligent thing, but it is intelligent, but it's not artificial intelligence, But you could sort of see that we're not a million miles away from that, maybe.
You'll soon be building your own C-3PO.
Yeah.
Like you're in the Phantom Menace over here. Just this naked Optimus Prime. It's just wires.
That's your very specific fantasy, Liam. That's all I can say. But I don't know. Does that change your opinion then of this thing?
It did for me, yeah. It made me understand that at least where their target was, and this is a step towards that. But at the same time, I mean, if this is how much this product costs, this is a very, very niche market, and even looking at something like VR, VR has struggled to establish a global market where companies that make VR games can bank on large customer bases, which will mean they'll come out of this desert of VR, and then it'll just be in everyone's home, and everyone will buy VR games. And I wonder if this will be something similar, where you'll get some people who see the benefits and they're early adopters, and they're going to go for this central family entertainment unit that can be your games machine, that can be your entertainment, that can be functional, like they're saying. Like, is it going to basically do everything that Robosen Prime does and also be a Roomba or something like that?
Yeah.
And I just think a lot of people aren't going to spend on that until it becomes something that everybody has in their home, maybe, or it starts heading in that direction. So it's very ambitious, but at least it's an ambition beyond just, hey, here's our product with a new skin. Let's appeal to this fandom. Let's appeal to fandom B.
Right.
Yeah. Well, is the next one going to be like R2D2 skinned? And so it's basically saying the plans lie further ahead than that.
Yeah, I guess there's going to be an evolution of it. And I think already some of the other Transformers products that are coming out are very different to the Prime, aren't they? So I think they're clearly kind of continue to push it. So I do think that's interesting to kind of see.
There's still first steps as well with something like this, because it is the first Transformers one they've done, and they've probably learned quite a lot from it, I'd imagine, as well. Like, you look at, like you're saying, their target market. I imagine they've gone in with a wider view, and then now they've sort of seen the reaction to it, realised the feedback, what the product is. It's probably like, look at it more like, maybe if we shrink it down for the next one, make it a little bit cheaper, then it's more accessible. Like the things they quoted there, like Nintendo, PlayStation, all these sort of things, they're refined over years, aren't they, to get to where they are. Like, obviously the PlayStation started as a disc drive add-on and then eventually turned to something else. All the Nintendo consoles have changed over time. I think maybe that's where it'll eventually find its footing. It will do one product that hits like everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we're saying with the Nintendo was obviously really popular and all that stuff, but the Wii is that one lightning in the bottle moment where everybody got one.
I've still got one.
It's your one console, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you talk about your early adopters. I don't know what I am, but, we're still rocking the Wii.
Yeah. I think that's going to be the case with this. If it does hit big, I think it will be, they'll do something that's accessible. It's one product that just captures everybody's attention and it becomes a must-have thing.
And that may not necessarily be a Transformer.
It won't be. No, it'll be either a Star Wars or something far more...
Yeah, it'll be what they've learned here.
Recognizable.
As they keep going, it'll keep evolving. And for me, I think that's what they should hope. I say hopefully, but I think that's where it'll go, is it'll downsize and they'll be able, because they'll be able to fit this technology into a smaller product that's accessible to more and more people.
What's the robotics market like, though? Are there other competing companies? Like, it's just assuming that Robosen would be the one that would crack the code of how to get it into everyone's home, and it wouldn't even have to be anything that is a crossover with another franchise. It might just be the must-have next step of home electronics or something.
It's an
But
interesting one, actually, because in Star Wars, we had, I don't remember, quite a few years ago now, when I say quite a few years ago, when The Force Awakens came out, was that 2014? Because we had the robot BB-8s, didn't we? That people went quite mad for a
Yeah.
little bit. It was almost like it wasn't artificially intelligent, but he could do some bits and bobs on his own, couldn't he? And that was the whole marketing thing. But that was a really popular thing for a while.
But do you think that was a novelty ultimately, or do you think that kind of transcended into something more?
I think that was a novelty, but I think it was that perfect. Again, it's that almost lightning in a bottle thing where they look at something that people want, like a droid, isn't it? It's like it does that off the film. It's like having that in your house.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's where this will go. Maybe if they do a sound wave that turns into a cassette player.
Oh man, I have
Something
considered
functional.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have considered that. It does almost need to be something more than it just transforms and says a few famous phrases. It almost needs to have that added element to it, doesn't it, to make it kind of transcend what it is.
I think that's what Maz was saying there about other franchises. And I think he's right. I also think what they were saying about the what did you just say? They said something about it being like an entertainment hub or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's when it has that more functionality, it interacts with other stuff, that it becomes more valuable not more valuable in terms of what it is, but to people, it's like instantly like, oh, I could have that because it can also do this, this, and this, and this.
now, just as an aside, what you said about the Soundwave cassette player. Now, if they could make one that was a cassette player and a VHS player and a Betamax player and a mini disc player and all these forgotten things that you don't have a player
format
for
of all
anymore,
time, just saying.
and also turns into a CRT TV that you can plug your C64 into. Imagine.
And it was a
That's
Mega
the
Drive.
Soundwave I want. Yeah, and a Mega Drive, yeah.
Wow, you've mentioned 2 video game consoles now.
I have,
Who
man.
are
I've
you?
been brushing up. What can I say? But yeah, I think the Soundwave.
Let's get him a Game Boy for his birthday, actually.
Oh, I'd actually love that. I would love that. Oh, but it's
or a Game & Watch Donkey Kong.
Oh my god! Oh, like a little Tiger Electronics game, like Street Fighter 2. Bleep, bleep.
Is that a computer game? But yeah, I do know it is. But I think the Soundwave would be fun. I think the Soundwave would kind of hit a lot of the right nostalgia buttons for people. And if it was functional as well, it would almost be weird if it did play cassettes, but that would almost be like a kind of weird appeal to that as well.
Absolutely, yes.
I don't know. You'd have to have it play MP3s as well, I think, or something. But...
Yeah, I think that's more the broader point. It's like Soundwave is a cassette player, so if it was that time, it would be like a functional device, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So now it would be something like that, like some sort of device that can
get in touch with Rocky, mate.
Yeah.
Get it on their plans.
Right. I'll just drop it in. Well, one thing I do think is interesting is that the other stuff that they've got coming up. I mean, we've seen there's a Bumblebee on the horizon. It's been viewed. It's a non-transforming Bumblebee, but still, it's an interactive robot.
And it's not a vintage VW Beetle either. It's a new Beetle shape.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
It looks like a almost like a fictionalized version, isn't it? It looks like a Beetle, but it's not. It's that, isn't it? It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I wondered about this because initially when I found out it was non-transforming, I was like, it's kind of a shame. But also, I think it probably makes sense because with Optimus, it's just a generic truck. There's no one to pay rights to or anything like that. Whereas with VW, do you get a license for it? What are you going to do? So it's a whole other kind of complication with that, isn't it?
And hopefully, it makes it cheaper. I think, but not having to transform, having all that extra engineering in, and like I say, maybe it could be a little bit smaller. Possible, maybe it's not, but you know what I mean. It might be able to then just get a few more people into it.
Would you be interested in a non-transforming Robosen product?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I'd be interested in a transforming one, but for me, it's the price for me. That's the barrier after experiencing it. Like oh god, it's like at TFN. Even now, just talking about it, I can feel myself in my brain. I can hear that stupid voice. Shut up! I can just hear him going. But what if you sold some stuff? But yeah, it's the robotic part. That's the part that's. I mean, it wasn't that he could transform. It was that I could. You know me, I love playing games. I'm always playing video games. So being able to mess about with something like this, it was far more interesting. That I almost forgot that there was a transformational aspect to it. I don't think I even got it to transform. I was more interested in being able to move it about and what it could do on that front.
It's funny because the official command is convert, isn't it? But if you say transform, it does it.
Yeah, which I think is cool. I mean,
it is cool. Yeah.
For the instructions, they have to put convert because I'm sure everybody knows the reasons why. It's all because of the kind of rights, or patent of the Transformers brand and not making it a kind of actionable thing. But I think the fact that they have programmed in Transform is great. I do kind of agree, though, because in a weird way, the transforming element to it is great, and it is still amazing to witness, but it's not the only thing that it does, and it's not the thing that kind of keeps you coming back to it,
Yeah, for me, definitely seeing that is almost like the Transformers element going in would have been important until I experienced it, and then it was only afterwards I was like, oh, I wasn't even bothered about that. I didn't even really care. It was all the other stuff. It's like, then I was interested, but I would have liked it if if he just said like transform to it. If he just stopped and went, I'm sorry, I think you mean convert.
Is that your Peter Cullen impression?
Yeah, that's what he said.
No, I am an action
sorry.
master.
I think you mean convert.
Yeah, I think so. The other funny thing then to mention is that with the Bumblebee is that apparently the two of them will interact with each other. I don't know how it exactly.
have
Well,
a
they do the
conversation.
handshake. It's the handshake. We're gonna get the handshake.
It's going to come out of the
maybe.
trailer, but in robot mode.
Yeah.
Crawling.
out, leg first.
Hey, you guys!
He's gonna get up and he go, oh, my back and my shoulders have been cramped in there.
Fixed the nasty bar on his rotator, though.
Yeah. But apparently they will interact. So apparently they'll be able to talk to each other. There'll be additional things that, let's say, Optimus can do because of Bumblebee. So a little bit like I noticed this actually. My boy has a couple of Toy Story toys, and you get like Woody. That sounds so wrong. You get wow. You get, let's say, Buzz and Woody together, and they have additional phrases based on them being in close proximity with one another. As you've gone red.
We've got a Woody in close proximity.
Yeah, a close proximity Woody. And it has additional phrases because of like being close to Buzz or whatever. And it's weird to see. Like they it's not so much that they interact with each other, but they do unlock something in one another, if that makes sense.
Of course,
and I think it's going to be the same with this, from what I've kind of been told or kind of understand. So I'm hugely intrigued about that.
See, that's quite cool because it's almost like the toy. It's a recognition factor, isn't it, between the toys that suddenly makes it way more interesting into what it can do. Like that
going to be the most expensive G1 collection you've ever assembled, though, isn't it?
That's the only thing. It's like if you're not prepared to drop, well, let's say 700 for the smaller one, which I presume that the Bumblebee will scale with the smaller one. I don't know.
Well, I think this is the thing here with regular toys. The scales, the features, they're not going to work, are they, with different sizes? But with a robot, you can program it for the features, so it doesn't really matter. It's not the same.
True. True.
He can squat a little bit or lean over to shake his hand.
Yeah, sit down.
So, I mean, you're not as
go into toilet mode.
Yeah.
Shake Bumblebee's hand.
Toilet mode. I'm amazed that you don't want it now that you know it's got a toilet mode, Liam.
I'm going to be looking it up in a minute.
Right. But yeah, I think that'll be really intriguing to see. And I wonder if the Rise of the Beasts Optimus will be able to interact with the classic Optimus in some way. I mean, that would be so
Do the
bizarre.
Spider-Man meme. Just pointing at each other.
Just pointing at each other.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Or it should be really awkward conversation between the two.
Yeah, indeed. Give me your face. What do you mean?
Show me your contract.
I'm the PG-13 version of you.
I am the leader of the Autobots.
Okay, let's move on to question 3 then, because we've kind of established where Robosen are going with this thing. But I think the next question is also an interesting one. So it was, how did Robosen transition from their earlier products to something like a franchised Optimus Prime? And their response was that their mission was to bring life more fun. And so they say that they create innovative robots for advanced consumer entertainment and education. And they have world-class research and development team that has spent 15 years of experience in robotics technology and partnered with top entertainment companies such as Hasbro and Disney Pixar to bring beloved characters to life in branded robots. Because they've also got the Lightyear one as well. Have you seen that?
No.
Have you not seen that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've got, the not the traditional Buzz Lightyear, the Tim Allen one. They've got the Chris Evans Lightyear, the most recent film.
Right.
Yeah.
They've got a robot of that as well. So that's really interesting to see versus Optimus, because it's a completely different looking product. It actually looks like the CG model of Buzz Lightyear, as he is in that film, and does a lot of different stuff. So that's fascinating. So it's worth looking up. And then they say that our robots feature lifelike movement and interaction to enhance user experience and inspire creativity. Through continuous innovation and patented technologies, we push the boundaries of what's possible in consumer robotics.
That's very interesting. I mean, the phrasing there and the content, it really does seem to indicate that this was at no point aimed at toy collectors.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely not. I think that the spirit behind that question was definitely something like, how did you merge the robotics that you do with something that appeals to toy collectors, or something that appeals to people who are into pop culture like this? And the answer was very much not by making it a toy or appealing to toy collectors. It's just that's incidental.
Yeah. So it's still designed with the same ethos as it being an educational sort of tool, that sort of thing. But the Optimus Prime thing is added after, wasn't it? Basically, to not added after, but you know what I mean. It's there to help it appeal to something, but it's not designed for that market, like for us normal toy collectors, is it? It's not that.
I think that has been the biggest learning for me with all of this is when I first saw this thing and heard about it, it's easy to come at it being a toy collector, and I understand why people do this. I think I did this. It's easy to come at it with an approach of like, wow, that's a hugely expensive toy, and that is going to, how many regular toys, how many Earthrise Optimus Primes or whatever could I buy for that price? And the reality is that the two are just not the same thing at all. It's not taking the place of like an existing Transformer. And I think we as toy collectors just need to totally change our paradigm with this thing.
Yeah, I think it's accepting there are other types of products out there that aren't just for our, just the same sort of almost conveyor belt of collection releases. It's like there's a new mainline Optimus Prime, we buy that to replace a previous one or something like that. This is something very different to that, and but I'm hoping that means we get more things like this, not just robots and stuff, but just different kind of interesting products.
Absolutely. I would say now, I mean, interestingly, I took a picture of this thing, the first one, with a lot of my other Optimus Primes, and it occurred to me at that point that I have Earthrise Optimus Prime, so that's like mainline, well, one of the current mainline, sort of not cheap as chips, but the entry price point.
It's the off-the-shelf Optimus.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the time.
Yeah, it's the one of the most accessible Optimuses currently on release, and with G1 Optimus Prime, which if you're a G1 collector, you'll probably have. But then I also had in there the 3 masterpieces, so that's another level as well. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to be everyone's thing or accessible to everyone, because of certainly MP44, because of price point, is going to be a cutoff for a lot of people. But then there's in the shop was also the Lego Optimus, which again is another thing. It's does transform, but it's not a traditional Transformers toy. And I think a lot of people probably or possibly would be disappointed with it if they weren't a Lego fan and they went at it as like, this is a Transformer only. And as you said, Liam, I think to me, in my mind, it's almost like the goalposts are being moved a little bit here, to kind of include more things in this array of this character. And I quite like that.
I think, do you mention the Lego thing? It's an interesting comparison, because nobody, when they did that, go, why are they doing that? Who's that for? As everybody looked at it, because they know Lego. And I wonder if that's some of this, they don't know, not Robosen, but just this robotics thing. That's what it is. They don't get what the product is.
The last line in his answer, we push the boundaries of what's possible in consumer robotics. That's their market. That's their product. That's their industry. Consumer robotics.
Yeah.
That's something that a majority of people do not access and do not have in their home.
So maybe it is a case then that it is that a lot of us fans don't get that, but also maybe that Robosen didn't quite get who they were pitching it to either. There's a bit of a crossover here, because when they were saying about pitching it to collectors and stuff and things like that, so maybe there is a bit of confusion around it, and maybe possibly why people are so.
Yeah, I guess collectors thought that it was being pitched at them because it was coming through their common video reviewers and it was their brand and their franchise. But I mean, I think from what Rocky's saying is, at no point did they look at us as their primary market.
That's very much the kind of strong impression I'm getting. But they are, I mean, now they're going to TFN and other things, and I think they are trying to sort of push that a bit more. And I think maybe the fact that they're doing more in the Transformers arena is kind of lending itself to that. I don't know, but
Yeah, and hopefully because like when Hasbro revealed it in their live stream, perhaps maybe they can make more of it being an educational tool and what it can do, rather than it being like, cool, it's Optimus Prime and he transforms himself. Like, it should be like more, he can do all of these amazing things, and that's more central to it, because that's what it felt like when it was revealed. Was so much of it was it's Optimus Prime who can transform himself.
Yes, yeah.
All the other stuff, like we were saying there about the app and stuff, felt like this is this background noise. It was very much pitched,
Absolutely.
not pitched as this, but it was almost like that was the central focus of everything.
That's the message that came through.
Yeah.
And as I say, I can sort of see actually that if you got this thing home and you were like, great, I can get it to transform, you'd do that repeatedly for like a day, and then you'd be like, huh, okay.
That's where the novelty comes in, isn't it?
Kind of done with that then.
Yeah.
That's the novelty. Whereas actually it's all the stuff that kind of isn't advertised, the coding and stuff, that is the bit that will keep you coming back for more.
Yeah. The transforming is the party trick.
Yeah, it is. And it's fun, but it's the bit that draws you in, and that's sort of what it's for in a way. So yeah, fascinating. Well, the next question actually was an interesting one because of the response, I think. So
very much leads from what we've just been talking about too.
Yeah, for sure. So it was, other than price, what does Robosen believe is the biggest obstacle to overcome for customers who are already Transformers fans? And their response at the time was, this is to be discussed further.
Yeah.
And I don't think that meant with us. I think that was just, that's something they're still working on, basically.
Yeah, I think from everything they've said in the previous questions and answers was that this is a consumer electronics product. It's aimed here, there, and there, not at toy collectors, not at your everyday Transformers fan. So they know that in order to appeal to the majority of Transformers fans, yes, the price needs to come down. But even then, I mean, £300 off the price to the elite. I mean, even if you halved that price to $350, something like that, then you're touching MP44 territory. And even MP44 does not appeal to the entire fandom by any stretch. So I think price is huge in that respect, but also the scope of what their product would do is something that they have to discuss. Like, obviously, there's all this app stuff, all this robotics central entertainment stuff, but how much of that could they legitimately take out and still keep the soul of their product and what they're aiming for? I mean, would that not just mean then that they're basically selling an electronic toy if they were to take all that stuff out and it would appeal to the rest of the fandom?
That's the danger, isn't it? Once you start stripping stuff out to appeal to a fandom like any fandom, you then start to lose what made it unique and interesting in the first place. Because if, like you're saying there, if they do strip like stuff like the app or those kind of controls down or rework it just like the RC Optimus Prime you can buy in Smiths or something like that, and over like 60 quid, that you press a button and it transforms, and you'd lose that soul. There's a balance, isn't there? There's a real delicate balance they've got to find there, because bringing it down makes it more accessible, but then obviously, like you say there, it leads to removing features.
Yeah, so maybe when they say to be discussed, what they're actually saying is it actually something we want to do at all? Maybe that's the discussion, not how do we do it, but why would we do it?
Yeah, then maybe the Bumblebee not transforming maybe is the first part of that. Maybe that's the compromise. The first compromise is that you take out the transforming element, which is, like, well, to me, the least interesting part of it. But
there will be people that turns
Definitely.
off as well. I mean, I when I saw the Rise of the Beast Optimus the other day that just got unveiled, I think it looks incredible. The fact that it doesn't transform, or I don't believe it transforms, is no issue to me, because I know that it will do a lot more besides. But I posted some pictures and it got retweeted and whatever, and straight away I had a little slew of comments of, does it transform? Does it transform? And I completely understand why people are asking that, because it pretty clearly doesn't, just looking at it.
Yeah.
But I do think there'll be people that are turned off by that as well.
Yeah.
By the fact that it doesn't transform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because, I mean, once you've got the price tag, but I think maybe that comes from that perception of that's what this thing does. It's an auto-transforming super toy.
Yeah.
So maybe,
a super toy is that's a great way to phrase it.
Perfect.
So maybe it doesn't matter that those people are dissuaded, because maybe they wouldn't have appreciated the product the way that you have anyway, or the way that the people who buy it for it being consumer electronics, consumer robotics would have. So I was imagining that when they were announcing these products, what we would be looking at is a 3.0 style product with all of these extra features.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a tough one because equally, I don't think there's a right and a wrong way to appreciate this stuff. And if what you want is a hugely expensive super toy, then that great, it can do that as well. But it's just so difficult. And I think the fact that 3.0 stuff has come in from a lot of people of like, yeah, it looks gorgeous, but it can't transform. I'm absolutely sure that the same thing will happen with
For
the
sure, yeah.
Robosen
Yeah.
stuff.
What's the
Absolutely.
point of this? Who's it for? It doesn't even have their flagship gimmick. Will
Yes.
be the
Yeah.
commentary.
Absolutely. And like you say, it's in that price bracket, isn't it, where taking that out would also almost feel like less value, I suppose, wouldn't it?
But the thing is, they've chosen the Rise of the Beasts Prime. So that is a current massive film that's coming out, which in a way you could interpret that as showing that they're not targeting this at Transformers fans. They're targeting this at everyone who's going to see that movie in the theaters and going to be like, oh, Optimus Prime is cool. I can have a version that's an actual functional robot with a ton of coding features and is super awesome that way, not 1984 Optimus Prime or 1984 something, but it's
Yeah.
actually going for the most modern and current in media, billboards, movie theaters version, and it doesn't have to transform because that's not where that product is based. It's not a super toy. In no way could it be that because it doesn't do what basic toys do.
Mm. It's interesting actually looking at the few pictures of the Rise of the Beast Prime that are out currently online. One of them definitely. Well, two things. Firstly, they're playing up the look of it much more because they're focusing in on the back and like the abs and the kind of robotic detail, if you will. So
That's
they're
what
really
made me think 3.0.
yeah, 100%. They're really in a very 3.0 way, kind of playing up the screen accuracy, the look of it. The kind of slightly worn paint finish that the classic Optimus absolutely does not have. I mean, it's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, but this looks like a different product in that regard. And the other thing is that there's a huge picture on their website of it with the app, and very specifically on the app, it's the block-based programming section. And so I think they're looking to play that up quite a bit more here.
Oh, that's good then. The thing that struck me was how much more dynamic it looks. Like all the photos of it, there's some photos of it posed far more dynamically than the regular G1 looks. It almost looks more like an action figure, and I think it's because it's it's losing that transformation element. Like you were saying there, like Maz was saying about it being more like a 3.0 figure.
Yes,
it actually does look more like an action figure in that sense.
Yeah, and I think it's perfectly possible that it will. I think that we said before about 3.0 that there's a lot that they're able to achieve in terms of looks, aesthetics and articulation, especially posability, all of these things, because it doesn't transform. And I absolutely think that the classic Optimus from Robosen, I think the look of it, I think it looks great, but I think there are elements to the design that are the way they are because it has to also transform. And I think as soon as you take that out, it opens the possibilities a little bit more.
I just wonder if they will then consider doing a 1984 version Optimus Prime that doesn't transform so that they can make that look as Optimus as possible. But I don't ever think that was a blocker for anyone to go for this product, so probably not.
Yeah.
There's a thin line between being a hero and being a memory.
Well, the last question that we asked then of Robosen was, does Robosen see their product as something that would appeal to a family market? And we've kind of touched on this already, but it's worth following through. So something that a Transformers fan would buy primarily for themselves, but also justify as an educational tool for their kids. And is that considered during the design? And their response was, voice and app control is just the current feature. And in the future, we will provide more advanced features based on our latest robotics and AI technology. Our product is for all family members, including education for young children.
So that tells me that they're going to incorporate GPT-4 or 5 into the next Robosen product.
Right.
And you can basically ask it, so what should I meal plan for the next 5 days and where do I get the ingredients? And can you transform and drive there and get it for me?
Can you do my homework?
Yeah, can you do my homework? Yes, exactly.
Effectively.
Yeah. Can you just write my essay for me? Maybe in the future.
Optichat GPT Prime is what they're
Right.
making.
Scary, isn't it?
Terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. I do find it terrifying.
It'd be no longer like a GTR, it's going to be GPT, isn't it? Mission GPT.
Mission GPT. But that's what that says to me. It's that this is scratching the surface, and as we develop AI and robotics technology, it's just going to become more functional, more family useful, practical, but also with a cool flavor every now and then, like an Optimus or a Lightyear or an R2D2 or
It's the
something
first
like
step,
that.
or early steps, baby steps, really, into this sort of arena.
So do you think then that, like in the future, let's say 10 years down the line, or maybe even less, 5 years, I don't know, that as this sort of AI robot thing becomes more the norm, as you said, Maz, it's not in everybody's house at the moment. It's not this kind of advanced consumer robotics. It's not, prevalent everywhere. But as it becomes more accessible, as it becomes more kind of normal technology, as it were, do you think that then there's almost like the standard of what we're seeing now with like this Optimus, for example, that might become more accessible to people over time as well? Do you know, it's almost like we're at the start of it right now. So of course it's hugely expensive because it's the latest technology and it's kind of advanced and whatever. But this might kind of drop down to becoming more of a kind of everyday product, and as more things advance. Am I explaining that well?
Yeah, I think my analogy with something like VR doesn't hold anymore, because VR is for entertainment. And so when it comes to entertainment, you have a very long way to go to get it into everyone's home and therefore bring the price down because of economies of scale. But something like this is aiming to be practically useful to families. So there's maybe more chance of it somehow taking all the technology that's current in the world right now and in the very near future. I mean, if you look at AI technology in terms of graphics and chat GPT and that kind of stuff, as much as there are arguments that this is it's not ethical, the way that it produces what it produces for people, were it to be used for the daily good of families, then there's a chance that products could come out where they become essential in the home, or they become very, very useful, more than just a Roomba, more than just a entertainment system or a console, but sort of like this amalgamation of all of these things into a central robotic hub of a home, I guess.
A robot
right.
butler.
Oh man,
maybe
Sixo finally gets his robot Optimus Prime butler. You are right on this front, because you look at what we have in our homes now, like Alexa and like Siri. Like the only times I ever use that is when I need to find out what the weather is. That's the only way I find it out, is I Siri. But like we're so used to stuff like this now. We're still only at the start with these things, and I think it's going to be the same with robotics. It's new technology like this. Like we've had little things before, but nothing on this scale. But every time, if you look at every time TVs change, like HD or 4K TVs, super expensive, and then it starts coming down the more it goes. And I think it's going to be like this. This is early steps, and then as it evolves, as Robosen and like you say, consumer robotics companies evolve it, the technology will just become more and more prevalent, more and more normal. So it'll be easier to install into devices like this. But also, it's like engineering. Look at toys now compared to when we were kids, and so all those motors and stuff they use, they will refine stuff like that, and they will refine different ways, and it'll just be cheaper, hopefully.
Yeah, it's still a hard sell for families, I think, at this point. Because, with TVs, everyone's bought into the concept of a TV already, must have. But something like this is pure luxury at this moment in time.
But it doesn't do all of the stuff that you would expect it to do 10 or 15 years down the line.
Right.
It's still at that stage where it can only do a very limited amount of things. But
you can see it converging, though, can't you?
Yeah,
with AI and this robotic stuff and the stuff that people have in their homes and the kind of consumer products that people buy now for their homes, which are a little bit futuristic. And you can see it converging in the future.
Yeah, it's all coming together, I think, stuff like that. And I think that's where we will see more of this as well, the sort of robotics as we move forward in time. Because we've got self-driving cars are starting to become more prevalent, and devices. People are getting more and more used to using devices in the home to do stuff for them, rather than them using the devices to do stuff themselves, if that makes sense. It's automation.
Yeah. I don't really know where to begin now. We've kind of veered into an arena that I'm just like, I feel a little bit out of my depth with, almost,
Well, look, you already go into people's homes now and they are completely hooked up to a network, and different rooms light up at different times, and they've got monitors, and it already knows when someone is approaching the house. And when someone approaches the house, it turns on the lights, or when it knows it's you approaching the house, your TV turns on, the epoxy oven turns on, the music goes. It's already hyper connected, and that's just some people who I know already live that way, and I absolutely don't. So
no, I don't.
I can see this being a case where you go to someone's house and they've got like a functional Robosen central home robotic hub that does everything and greets you.
It's an extension of that stuff. Like we're saying about Alexa, you'd be like, Alexa, turn on the lights or whatever. Here, if eventually you had a device like this, you'd be like, Robosen, Optimus Prime, whatever, turn on the lights, but it does it wirelessly. But then you could be like, go get me a beer, and it's a silly thing, but it's stuff like that. It's very functional things. It's go close the door, go do this, go do that, and I think we're at that thing that we've seen in films for years, basically.
Yeah, it's basically schedule my work meetings for the rest of the week, sort my son's homework out using ChatGPT with this input, make sure I'm using my lights and electronics in the most economical way. Let me know if someone's approaching. Make sure you send these messages out, and also dance, motherfucker. So it's all of those things.
Right.
Do you know when they hit the big time? It'll be when they skin one to look like Crichton from Red Dwarf, and then people will get it straight away. It's like, the robot butler.
Yeah, but at some point they need to install the laws of robotics, don't they?
Yes,
Asimov's laws of robotics.
Absolutely.
Rise of the it's not Rise of the Beast, it's Rise of the Machines, like Terminator, isn't it?
Well,
Optimus Prime just crushing the planet.
Do you want to? That's the thing that I kind of can't get out of my brain is like, at what point does it cross that threshold then of being a bit? Obviously, I'm not saying it's there now at all, but like almost being a bit questionable in terms of the morality of it all. Because if this stuff is truly alive at some point, I don't know. Obviously, it's not there now, but I don't know. Look, that's way down the line. We're way down the line at this point.
Let's see if it can just stay on a table.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, maybe I'm getting off topic a little bit with that one.
We're going to have to get Sixo to watch the Terminator films, aren't we?
Is that a computer game? No, believe it or not, I'm very well versed in the Terminator.
Remember, he's a film wanker.
Oh, yeah.
Great score to those. Talk about that all night.
I've returned, more powerful than ever.
Okay, to kind of bring Robosen to a bit of a close then and kind of come back to where we were. I think, considering all of these answers from Robosen themselves, my personal experience of having seen these things in hand and kind of got used to them, Liam, your impressions of it and everything, I think it is fascinating because I do think that it's kind of landed a little bit misunderstood in the Transformers fandom. Mm-hmm. And again, I will reiterate what I said earlier, is that there's no right or wrong opinions on this, and I'm certainly not looking to sit here and say to anybody that's looking at this thing saying, I'm not keen on it, that they're wrong, because that's not my place. But I do think that it does more than just be an overpriced novelty, in my opinion. And I think maybe some of the way that it's kind of been pitched or whatever has not showcased that in its best light about everything it can do.
Absolutely.
Do you kind of feel me with that a little bit?
I do. I definitely think there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah. Oof.
Low hanging fruit, man. Yikes.
That's all I can reach. I'm average height.
Oh man. But no, I do think it's been a little bit misunderstood, and I think I hope it changes. I'll be interested to see how the Bumblebee goes down, how the Rise of the Beast Optimus goes down, aside from the complaints about it not transforming.
But at the same time, you don't want to tell people it's not for you. Because if someone just wants to finally have a self-transforming Optimus Prime that also plays some banging Season 3 music, it is for you.
Yeah.
If you can afford it.
Oh, man.
And you'll love it, I guess.
Yeah. I think the price is such a barrier. And I think that's the biggest shame of the whole thing. But there's not much they can do. And I get why it's that way. But I just think I do think that some of the, maybe not criticism, but I think some of it just comes from a place of disappointment as well, because it is unaffordable. It is maybe a bit more enticing than I think some people might let on.
I think I saw a couple of comments about should it exist, considering that there's cost of living crisis and things like that. That bit I don't have a problem with. I got to tell you, I'm someone that you guys know me, you know my politics, you know my feelings about what's going on in the world at the moment, and I feel very strongly about a lot of that. But I also think that of course there's a room for luxury items and things like that, and there always will be. Do you know what I mean? And I don't see that personally as a problem necessarily of it existing. I think that not everybody can afford it, and I guess that's the reality of consumerism. That is kind of what it is. But I don't see its existence as an affront to anything.
And this, I think, luxury item is fair, but I don't know. I think that comes with a sort of a negative connotation when it's doing something interesting. It's like like you say, it's an educational device almost, and I think it's more than just like a frivolous purchase. It's something that for people who do own it, it's it's just it's fun. It's something to mess with, and it is, like you say, it's advancing technology. I think that's we're at the early stages, and that's all I think it is really.
Do you know? Maybe I will out myself as being very naive about coding and about what this product does, but certainly their future products may back this up. But I work with a woman who's about 30 years old, so she was in higher education here in Iceland at a time where you would think that she wouldn't face this sort of prejudice, especially in a country like Iceland, which is considered to be a lot more gender neutral when it comes to like pay and education and prospects in tech especially. And she had a very hard time, even in like higher education, being able to study computer science, being able to study technology. She was still facing the attitude that it wasn't really for her.
Yeah, man.
And that was really amazing to me. And I think if you can take a product like this and have it at home. I'm still looking at the answer to the last question that Rocky gave us, that our product is for all family members, including education for young children. If this product helps at home get someone's child interested in coding in a way that they maybe face obstacles still in regular education and what they have access to, then, if it opens them up to that future, and it does it at home with a cool product that's fun and engaging to interact with, because educational tools like that have not always been engaging and charismatic in the way that this appeals to people, then how can that be a bad thing?
Yeah.
Yes, it's luxury in terms of price, but let's not look at that as a pejorative. Let's look at it as it's expensive because of what it does right now. But
I completely agree with everything you've just said. I mean,
absolutely.
My boy has. It's very basic because it's for his age group, but some of his toys and things are essentially the basics of coding. Because it is like, he's got like this sort of caterpillar thing that you put all the blocks in a different order and it does a different sequence.
That thing was cool. We saw it before TF Nation. That thing was wicked.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to before this TF Nation playing with Sixo's Robosen.
Right.
Yeah. Well, sure you can.
You'll have a fleet of them by the time we turn up in August.
We'll turn up to TFN on the back of them.
Yeah, run over your thrust, Liam.
Chariots of Robosen.
Yeah. But, that is like the basics of coding right there. And that is being built into a lot of kids' toys now. And I do think that something like the Robosen Prime, and I know we kind of said it earlier, but it has the potential to do that, to inspire tiny minds, and to kind of get them turned on to this field of robotics or whatever. And I genuinely do think that it has that potential. So, yeah, it's easy to sniff at, but its existence isn't bad. It has the potential to be a very good thing for the right people,
That's what I was saying about that. I think with the price, I think part of the reason it feels a shame is because of that. Like, you feel like it's such a barrier for so many children that won't be able to experience it and get hooked into it like that. Whereas I think as a tool, it would be fantastic for so many people, but it is only going to be for people who can, who have that kind of money. And I think, because I've resigned myself, I'm never going to own one because it's way, way outside what I could afford. But I would never begrudge it existing. And I've never understood that mindset that people have when they're like that, when they're like, oh, this shouldn't exist. And it's like, because I can't afford it. It's like, there's so many things I would never be able to afford. But I'm like, it's cool that it exists.
Don't get me wrong, my boy wouldn't be witnessing it were it not for the fact that I very luckily got sent one, to review it. So two. So,
potentially 3.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But, I'm very lucky doing what I do, that's, sort of big perk of it. But it's interesting because I do think that if this stuff can become more accessible and the price can come down over time because it becomes more more routine almost,
Hmm.
then yeah, I think it has the potential to be something really good.
Yeah.
Freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
Well, I think that's going to about do it for Robosen as a topic. I mean, as Liam sort of alluded to earlier, we have talked about this privately a couple of times, and I think it's a topic that we've been really interested in doing. So I kind of feel like hopefully we've done it justice, but I think there is a lot more to say. So potentially we'll come back around to it in the future if there's kind of interest on that, and as they release more products and stuff as well. So, but in the meantime, we do have some other content that you might be interested in because we have a Patreon, don't we, Maz?
Yes. How would you like to listen to hours and hours more of this kind of stuff? And with more guests.
Love it.
And exclusive stuff like focusing purely on more than meets the eye with the author
Boy, howdy.
coming in and giving a commentary on our commentary of that.
Sign me up.
Right. Or me discovering 20-year-old toys.
Oh, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Oof.
Or Liam digging out toy lines that you've never heard of, but should have heard of. And then remarkably getting reissued a week after our minisode lands, I was thinking of the turtles. But... So yeah, all of this is on our Patreon. If you sign up at Sixo's Butlers, you get the fortnightly minisodes and you can commission them as well. So if you've got a topic in mind that we think will work, then, you could hear that. Or at Goldbox Classics, you get the minisodes and you get the exclusive miniseries that we've just been talking about as well. That's exclusive weekly content. At our lower tiers, you can get episodes early, a week early. You get access to our Discord server. You can vote in polls and decide on what kind of things we talk about in the future. And of course, there's merch when you sign up at GBC as well, a free piece of merch. Now, another perk of our Patreon is to be able to ask a question on the pod. And we've got a very straightforward question this time from Heinrad80. It's, what is your favorite pretender?
Oh, I love this. Pretenders, baby.
Oh, I love Pretenders.
Pretender ready.
Sure.
Was that John Anderson from the Gladiators?
Yeah, it was supposed to be, mate. It was supposed to be. I'll just stick to the movie narrator.
Cloudburst, you can go on my first whistle.
My God.
Terrific.
You always get more than you bargain for with these questions, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Get even more on Patreon.
Yeah. So go on then, Liam. What's your favourite pretender?
Mine's always going to be Cloudburst. It was the first one I got as a kid. It was the one I lost at a bus stop after football practice as a kid. It's the one I somehow have two of now as an adult. I have always loved Cloudburst. I love his little jet mode. It's Cloudburst, isn't it? Is it
Cloudburst, yeah.
I keep calling him Cloudraker, but that's the clone, isn't it?
That's the clone, yeah.
Yeah. The Cloudburst, his red jumpsuit is cool. It's just a cool, fun character, man. It's just, his little inner robot, it looks like a perfect Cybertronian sort of design that I always thought they would have looked like when I was a kid. And so when I first saw it, I was like, that is just what I would have pictured.
I live for the panel of Cloudburst and Landmine in the Marvel comic where Cloudburst transforms into his jet mode and then
the pretenders
pretender shells sit in the cockpit. I'm just like...
You describing that last time was hilarity.
How's that happening then? What's going on there? I love it. Absolutely love it. Peak Transformers, that for me.
That's the feature they should have put into the actual toys.
Yeah, imagine. Mine's going to be really hard to choose. I've got pretty much them all. All the Western ones I've got. There's a couple of the Takara ones that I'm missing, like Blue Bacchus and stuff. But tough one. Maybe Landmine. I really like Landmine. I just love the color scheme, love the shell. The little car mode is cool.
It is cool.
Yeah,
it's cool colors.
Yeah, cool colors.
Super cool colors on that.
Really love that one.
Dinobot grey and yellow and red, man.
Yeah, I'm really kind of taken with it. I don't know. Just something about that. I do like some of the like Gunrunner and things like that as well. I think are super cool. The Beasts. It's a tough question for me.
Mine's a good shout. I'm going with Road Grabber.
Yeah.
I don't own loads of Pretenders, and I love that Catilla is as cool as he is. I mean, Catilla is fantastic. It's Battle Cat with another transforming cat inside. 2 good modes, by the way, on that, like Catilla. Also, Pretender Grimlock is cool that way too. But no, it has to be Road Grabber. Colors are insane. Looks like a M.A.S.K toy. Got that flip-up sort of shield console rolling vehicle thing. It's got the action of the lasers attached to the treads. Yeah. Beautiful colors. Gorgeous toy. Road Grabber. So, thank you, Heinrad80, for a very cool question. kind of felt like it fit today, that one. There were other ones before, but that one fit for me. And the other big perk, yeah, compared to hours and hours of content, is getting your name read out on the roll call.
Yeah, that's
if you're
why
a
people sign up.
GBC or a Gold Box Classic. So,
which voice are you going to do it in?
My voice. A huge thanks to Nick, Danny Roberts, Andy Preston, Chris Spiderfather, Adam Shoemaker, Matt, Stephen Perkins, Bad Saturday, Justin Massara, Dave Larry, Geocaster, Yusuf, John Pearl, Troy Van, Cast Captain, Ray Field, Jacques Pelletier, Rodestorm, Stuart Urban, Mar, Lays, The Big Puma, The Hunter, Vegemite, Mike, Peter Hamilton, Shenry, Chris Norris, Jesse Moreno, Nexus, Gemmo, and Aaron Roberta, Billy Gator, Andy Gold, Cold School, Simon Elvin, Josh Misha Kid, Cracktastic Plastic, Dan Vestader, Jeffrey Freak, Nice Libans, Andy, Inbound Lee, John Wood, Carla Wilmuth, Tim Banerjee, Ben Lewis, Shinsei, Lucas Henkel, Mollis Kerning, Malcolm Hoff, CNC, Rick 56, Mythic Gears, Zach Lawson, Jason Murray, David Shepard, Steam, Quick Mix, Josh Bell, Ash Bolt, Zindios, Christian Hyatt, Mark Alley, Andrew Bentley, Graham Moffat, Connor C, Burt Peralta, Eric Hoyt, Bobby P, Mike Loicono, Niar Bat, Tyler Husky, Chris Wadwell, not Chris Waddle, Liam, Steve Redmond, Jim Kingsley, Shaunty Siegel, James Pascoe, Ghost Prime, Jickle, MK Tronic, Hordet Walter, Charlie Chappelle, Maddie Clark, Jonathan Foss, Logic Howard, Alexis Taylor, Windows 6K, Teku James, Tyler Dickerson, Jeremy Woodall, Ross, Jetfire James, Doglunch UK, Saucy Fella, Keith, Freedom is the Right, Menace Streaker, Michael Kegel, Dugatron, Squid Catfish, Rob Packerbush, Stevie P, Ali Nunes, Cannon, Robert R, Duckstar, Heinerad 80, Fuzigi, Toy Pocket, Calidus, Michael Brandt, Uncharismatic Boar, Darge, Cam Lee, Absurd, Miguel Gonzalez, Meow Nyan, and a huge thank you to our new GBCs and butlers, Spider Bob, Ben Gleed, James Hooks, Kit Catastrophe, Brandon Mahaffey, Jamie Vaughan, Collecticon, Chup, Doggedy, Goldbolt, Wade Lewis, John R, and the Mapes Brothers, who you might recognise. What a list.
What a list.
Some great names, isn't there? Like a saucy fella. Makes me laugh.
Yeah. Followed by Dog Lunch UK.
Sorry, but Dog Lunch UK is the best name of all of them.
Yeah. Red alert.
Absolutely incredible. Well, we also do have a sponsor for the evening, so do check them out. It's at tfsource.com for all your Transformers and third-party needs.
And if this, if you've got enough money left after buying a Robosen Transformer...
He's scrabbling around for his post-it note.
Where's the post-it?
I'm trying to remember the address.
He's on the floor. Did Jesse eat it?
Pass the time. Remember the words. And you can head over to our Redbubble store where you can buy all sorts of fun merch. That is at redbubble.com/people/triple takeover/explore.
Explore.
Nailed it.
Crushed
right,
it, man.
that's what that was. Nailing it.
Okay, yeah. Nailing it with style, my friend. Nailing it with style. And and as Sixo mentioned earlier, let us know what your thoughts are on Robosen and Robosen Transformers or, robotics, anything like that. Head over to our Facebook page, which is at Triple Takeover, all one word. Or also check out our Instagram and Twitter, which is at triple_takeover. Guys, where can they find you?
I'm at TFsquareone on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
I'm at Sixo TF on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon.
And I am at Toybox Soapbox, anywhere there's an app.
Well, I think that'll about do it for the chat on Robosen Optimus Prime. So to say goodbye, we may as well turn it over to the man himself.
Till all are one.
Me doing the outro, isn't it?
Yes.
Get Robosen Optimus Prime to do it.
Yeah, oh man, I was thinking I might have to try and work in some of the quotes and bits,
100%.
the music. I don't know how, but I'll see what I can do.
Can you get it to say goodbye?
Yeah, maybe.
Just bring him on. Say Robosen.
Okay.
Say goodbye.
Hang on.
This has got to be
He
done.
doesn't say goodbye. He doesn't say goodbye, but he does. There are things he.
Toodle
Yeah.
pip.
Okay. Hang on. We can probably do something. Hang on one sec.
This is going to be great.
Late as taters.
Is it? I don't know.
Just going to drive off his desk. Crash.
Through the window. Like one of Unicron's eyes is out into Sixo's driveway.
Yeah. Outtake material is wicked on this episode, I'm sure.
Oh my god.
They're wearing away.
It's on my lap. That's the problem.
Look at the size of that thing.
It's huge.
So when you power it down, what does it say? It says something.
Autobots never give up.
So that is the possibility.
Yep. What else you got?
Greetings, friend. I am Optimus Prime.
That'd be good for the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Optimus Prime.
Greetings.
Say goodbye. No, he doesn't do that.
Our survey says.
Yeah.
Where's that? I've got the manual just here. Hang on one sec.
This is hilarious.
This is the advert for the toy. This is Optimus Prime do this. Crickets just chirping.
Oh, he's gonna fucking transform. I just need to transform him. Hang on one second. Hey, ooh, is he gonna be all right there? Hang on. Yeah, I'm totally unprepared for this. Hey, Optimus Prime. Transform.
Crash.
The screen just goes over.
Glass smash, I'm sure.
Not really enough room for this in here. Oh my god.
Well, Optimus Prime's quite big. It wouldn't fit in your room.
God, it's so heavy.
Crumbs.
So there we go. Mass displacement.
Hi.
Print screened.
Here we are.
I think the thing is, when I say shut down, he's gonna squat on my lap.
Chop his
You're
finger
gonna,
off.
you're gonna trap your finger in there.
Hey, Optimus Prime.
Greetings.
Shut down.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
Yeah, he just does the same thing.
Great. One of those is totally good enough.
Did he say anything like good night or something like that?
Hey, Optimus Prime. Oh, he's turned himself off.
It's powered down.
Lazy bugger.
It's not Laser Prime, it's Lazy Prime.
I am Optimus Prime.
He's going to stand up again now. Here we go. It's weird doing this on my lap, man. Hey, Optimus Prime.
Greetings.
Return to headquarters.
Kill all or one.
That would
That's a
do,
good
wouldn't
one.
it?
Yeah, that'll do it.
All right. We'll get that. I'll try and get that on. I can edit it in. Hey, Optimus Prime.
Greetings.
Hang on. Do you know the speakers at the back?
He's talking out of his arse.
What is going on, man? Hey, it's always me that ends up with the stuff, isn't it? It's on my lap. That's the problem.
Look at the size of that thing.
It's huge.
Yeah, there's a bit of diaper action going on there, definitely.